Hi everybody, welcome to this Jewel of the Soul Master reading this week. This is for the week of June 4th, 2017. And we have a master number for our Sabian symbol. It is Sagittarius 22, which reads, a Chinese laundry. So more on that in a minute. The 22 is the master builder. It is known in numerology as a master number. And what that means, a master builder, is, it's the part of us where we're discovering parts of ourselves that we want to bring forward in service to others, in service to perhaps suffering parts of humanity or animals or causes of some sort. There's very much a of service kind of energy to this. Okay, so then we couple that with Sagittarius, which, as you all know, I always say it, Sag is one of my two favorite zodiac signs because I just love the adventuring spirit of Sagittarius. Sag is never happy with status quo, always looking for more, always ready for adventure and opening up to new ideas, new ways of being. It's pure magical energy, and it can fly off the rails just like every other zodiac sign can when it gets too intense. But it's really a promising sign to me that we're seeing both that adventurer kind of spirit as well as the 22. So now to a Chinese laundry. So this is our jewel for the week. This is the Jewel of the Soul reading. And our jewel, a Chinese laundry, celebrates your special background, your special heritage, what it is that you bring from your past. And that could be past lives too. That's the Chinese part of the symbol that's being specified here. And laundry is simply bringing that special, unique part of you to the very mundane. And in this way, we bring a sense of magic into our lives in the most mundane of areas. That's where you can be washing dishes and feel this special sense of purpose and a lightness of spirit and a joy of being of service even within your own family, of the fact that you have water in order to wash those dishes and soap and a sponge and a sink, and so gratitude becomes a part of the story here for our week. And you really looking at all you've built up over time. And if it suits you best, you can look at this life. For some of you who feel comfortable with it, you may be recalling past life wisdom that's coming up too. But it's okay to look at this life and everything that you've gathered through the very mundane, as we call it, of experience. That's what I get from a Chinese laundry. It feels like a really kind of blasé symbol as compared to much of the other symbology in the Sabian set. But it's the master number 22. So there's something big to this that has to do with you bringing everything that is part of your heritage. And that can include everything that is part of your experience, everything you've learned, especially from the hard times, from the challenging times. When we think about a Chinese laundry, I do think about, kind of a steam press iron that these people use, and perhaps they employ their children as part of that business. And, there's a lot of toil that is spoken to with this symbol. So those are the parts of life where we really gain part of our, what I would call, heritage which is exactly what's coming forward this week, is all of those gifts contribute to this jewel that wants to come forward for you this week, especially those times of toil, like really working hard in a hot, steamy laundry business. Okay, think about that. But it's a part of your heritage. It's part of why you came. And those moments serve as that contrast of, like I've always thought, I was really happy that I had a first paying job as a chambermaid at a local hotel. And that was really valuable for me because I figured out for me that I didn't want to do that kind of work to get the minimal amount of money that I was getting. And so it drove me further to really want to continue to do well in school, to want to continue on to college, to have an area of mastery that I became good at, and then staying in that field, and I'm still in it, over 20 years later. And that's the value of the contrast of that very first job as a chambermaid, and getting down on my hands and knees and scrubbing toilets that people had used at that hotel and scrubbing the bathroom floor. It was not fun work, but it gave me the contrast that then really catapulted me into defining an area of study that I felt good about, and then continuing to refine that as I went into my career, as just an example. But that contrast from the beginning was necessary. And we're facing that as our son is about to have his first job this summer. And I think there's benefit to having real blood, sweat, and tears go into working for $1, and what that instills in you and what you learn from that experience. And you get your paycheck and think, man, I worked my tail off, and everybody's got a different path on that, and they're all good, they're all right, but for me, it just propelled me further to keep going. And so to summarize, we're looking this week at your heritage, those parts of you where especially elements of toil and trouble in your life that have caused you to seek out something more expansive, better for yourself. That's really lighting up our week in order to bring new levels of service for yourself and for others. Okay? So let's get into the cards then. And I've got some notes here because we got crystals this week. All right. First card up is from the Soul Coaching deck by Denise Lynn. And also we have the Fuchsite, which is part of my air team. This goes by the name Crystal Cave for me because it's probably hard to see on the screen, but it's very sparkly and beautiful and looks just like a beautiful Caribbean kind of ocean green. So that's part of my air element team, which means the mind, thought, communication. So our card is Faith. Okay, and it says on here, my life is divinely guided. So we have the person who's reaching for the trapeze bar, okay? And there's a real leap here, the leap of faith, as they say. And then the crystal cave, and the message from all the notes I have about this piece, I have this way that I work with crystals, that I sit with them and I just take in the message or the kind of the crux of their energy with me as a healer, as a messenger. What is their service here? And of all those notes, it was this sense of accessing intellectual gems. And again, this is from the air team, so it's about your thought and your ability to communicate. And that there's also the Hermit from the major arcana of the Tarot, that hermit energy is very strong with this crystal cave piece, that we discover through times of quiet introspection by ourselves. Okay, so there's a real sense that I get with this faith card. You know, my life is divinely guided, that the way to get the most out of that jewel that came up with a Chinese laundry, as I spoke of in the intro, the way to get at that is really to let go of the reins. That's what I'm getting. Really, like, just letting go of all of the tightness within you. And this takes the work of your thought and awareness and even communication within yourself. To have awareness when you're getting really rigid. To get an awareness when you're trying to control a situation. Because this card energy is anything but controlled, is anything but strapped down, is anything but having the reins on something and directing it. It's the antithesis of that. So the way to bring about this mastery energy that we have access to this week through Sagittarius 22, in service of humanity and ever expanding levels of joy and bliss for ourselves as well, is through this idea of, you know, delving into, too, taking the time for your personal journey into the crystal cave, where you can really hone in on, what do I want to focus on? What do I want in terms of my greatest freedom? How do I want to be of service to other people, to other causes? And you can do that through very small acts. For some people it's donating money to causes. For some people it's donating their time and their skills. And then for others, it's spreading the word about certain things that you're passionate about. But I think there has to be, it's kind of an opportunity this week for you to look at, again, hearkening back to that symbol of a Chinese laundry. Think about, through your toils and trouble, through your own blood, sweat, and tears that you have endured in this life, in your, what I call, heritage. What have you learned out of that? And then how can you make that the greatest gift that you bring forward for others? And in this way, there's the opportunity to not necessarily join an existing organization or movement or a way of thinking, but to bring your own sense of value that you have gathered from your own experience forward for other people to learn and expand from. And we've all got that stuff. My mom gave me a great quote from Robin Roberts as I was telling her about my thoughts on sharing my story and how that's all morphing. And Robin Roberts said, "Make your mess your message." And that's exactly what we're getting to with this, is looking back at those mess areas and where you employed the effort in order to clean them up. A Chinese laundry. You cleaned up the soil marks, and that took your own sense of gusto and courage and inner sisu, as I call it, the Finnish word for pull up your bootstraps and get on with it. What elements from that can you, either you may be called to employ them again for yourself, or maybe you just are offering it to a friend who's in need, or maybe it becomes, a blog or a a video or a book or something that you communicate verbally or in written word that can help to inspire other people. Because every one of us has those stories. When you look back at those times where you did fall down and you did have grit and stains on your knees, and what did you do at those times? And I just feel this sense of, there's a lifting up that occurs when you share and when you employ that again for yourself at new levels. Because I can guarantee you've automatically grown as a result of that instance. Okay? So, yeah, I would say, the fuchsite really gives the clue. That's what the crystals this week are going to give the clue about the action in terms of an element. And for you, it's the air. It's through thought. It's through communication about those times when you just had to dig up your inner faith and take the leap. And you may be in a place right now or this coming week where you're going to need to pull that out of you again, either for yourself or for someone else. And it definitely will be of service. It definitely will be to uplift, whether it's directed inward for you or outward for another. Okay? But really beautiful energy here with this, of those intellectual gems and being able to access them this week and being mindful that you have that. That's all a part of your wisdom. We kind of slough off all that stuff and say, yeah, I just pushed through that and I don't ever want to think about it again. But, and that's what I've been going back and forth in whether or not I'm going to share my story of my approach for going through cancer treatment, which many people have encouraged me to do. But I kind of felt like, I don't know that I want to go back there. But what I don't mind going back to is the way that even in moments when I fell down, it was how I picked myself up again. It was how I continued to put one foot in front of another. And in some cases was skipping and jumping and hooting and hollering quite happily. And I'm guessing that you have those moments too. And they are worthy of celebration and worthy of coming out, being dusted off, and re-employed again for yourself or another. Okay? So very subtle messages this week, but it's about using your own experience for your benefit and the benefit of others. And that all of that it's really meaningful experience here on this planet and why we came. All right? Good. Okay. The second card is from the Animal Medicine deck. And Apophyllite comes through. This is it's hard to see here in the screen, but there's so much dimensionality within these pieces, and they are very powerful, especially in this pyramid form. Multi-facets on the outside and then facets within it. I know it's part of my water team, so this has to do with emotion. And this is known as Revealer. And of all of my notes that I tap into when I sit with the crystal when I first get it, this is what wanted to come forward for the message with this card that I haven't shown you yet. Wanting to uncover something that has been working its way to the surface over time. And the card is Salmon in reverse. Okay, so Salmon in reverse, when salmon is upright, it means wisdom and inner knowing. So in the guidebook, I took out my pendulum and I tried to hone in on what part of the message is for you in relation to this symbol of a Chinese laundry as our jewel for this week. And it was reclaim your own authority, not acting to get the approval of others. It's about certainty, wisdom, instinct, and inner knowing. And what I want to say about that is, because the crystal for each card directs us to, it hones in deeper on that message. The theme is this idea of reclaiming your own authority, of owning your own certainty within, but it's around your emotions. Are you emotionally, I'm just going to question you, are you emotionally behaving in a way that you expect or others expect you to? Are you, because emotion then drives behavior. So just take a look at, are there areas, given that we're talking about your heritage here with our symbol of times of toil and trouble, the times when you've fallen down on your knees and you've gotten scunned up, or you've, gotten the grass stains and the grit all over your pants, and then what it was that got you to stand back up on your feet and continue on, and how that energy remains with you forevermore after that. You can't not know that from then on. That's a powerful guidance that you gained in those moments. And that's what the Chinese laundry is pointing to. You found a way to clean away the soil stains of times that were troublesome in this life. And that's the part that wants to come forward this week, okay, as the jewel for yourself or for others. Think back on those points of wisdom, and perhaps pointing that wisdom at situations for yourself or for other people that you really care about. Because there's a lot of invested energy with the salmon in this reverse position. It's like we're acting in a way in order to please other people. So there may be an opportunity to counsel yourself or others on really looking at emotionally, how do you really feel about something? Because this is saying that there's been a rising up of an emotional viewpoint around something, that it's been rising for a period of time. And now it's getting really close to the surface. And now I'm seeing in my vision fish swimming very wildly in a school of fish, swimming right under the surface and creating all this sort of bubbly surface of the water. It's like there's not enough room anymore. You can't push this down any longer. So something emotionally that maybe you've been behaving in a certain way, because again, emotions go hand in hand with then our behavior. When we're angry, we lash out and we make it known, that we're angry. For some people let it brew, and then it kabam, it goes explosive. And these emotions, by the way, don't need to be negative. I'm not trying to go there either. I'm talking about the full spectrum. But it's something that you haven't yet allowed to shine brilliantly and beautifully. And it needs to shine because it's either true for you or true for another. This is where this message, I can't get too specific because it's a general reading. It could be another person that you see struggling with this because it's something of service, but it could be you too. And your piece of it is that you've already been through something like this before. And so you have that inner wisdom already on board. But there's a sense with you or someone else that you're not trusting that, you're letting it, you're not trusting that own sense of inner knowing, inner authority, that instinct, and still it rises, it keeps coming up, and now it's like a bunch of fish right under the surface, like, there is no more room, the water's going down, we're not going to have any more water to swim within, and, there's no more hiding about it. And so the encouragement is to step towards that inner knowing, that's emotionally guided. What is it that you've been feeling in a situation, but you have not yet expressed it outside of yourself? Okay, is there something that's come up in you, or that you're witnessing in another who's really struggling, somebody you really care about too, where it's just a matter of, you've been in this kind of situation before, and you have to trust that inner tide that is flowing through you. That is the water. That is the emotion. You have to trust that, because that is your greatest inner knowing. It is your greatest wisdom. It is your soul literally swimming through you. And it just won't be pushed down any longer. So the guidance is in trusting that inner wisdom and allowing yourself to actually go to the next step of speaking it. Because the good thing about emotions, that is your built-in guidance system. And this emotion, likely, it should feel good to you when you allow yourself to really sink into it and let it flow through you. It should be a really good feeling emotion. I'm not saying it doesn't cause a little anxiety, though. It might cause the butterflies. It might cause that inner ego voice to say, oh God, no, we can't possibly do that. That would upset them. But I'm going to keep pointing you back, because the apophyllite, this is a really powerful crystal energy. It won't be ignored. It'll just keep coming up. And, the way energy works sometimes is it can come up and slap you across the face if you just keep turning a blind eye to it. Because it's coming up because it's related to something that you are actually wanting. A greater sense of freedom, a greater sense of service. And again, I keep saying it's either for you or for someone you really care about, okay? So I keep referencing you, and it may not be in your case, but somebody you see struggling. But you got this, because you've done it before. There's a sense, there's a revisiting here, and it's a knowing, and it's the fact that you've had that moment when you fell down on your knees, or that person has that's involved, and you know what you need to do to get back up again and keep on walking. Or changing it to skipping or singing or whatever. Maybe it's a really, really joyful response. But it's allowing it to shine. It's allowing it to come out. And letting your emotions be your guide in that. Okay? And trusting in it. Because it's the inner knowing. And turning this salmon around so that you are, or this other person, is allowing that knowing to guide their action. They're not doing something only to please other people, because that's never pleasing to yourself, and you are the only one with oversight over your Taj Mahal. Nobody else has the keys to that front door. It's only you. So it doesn't really pay to be in a place of only acting in order to please others. Because you end up getting, or this other person involved ends up potentially with a sense of bitterness and regret. And that never feels good. So it's going towards those emotions that are rising, that when you take the time and you really study them, they feel pretty good. When you give yourself into letting that emotion flow through you, that will then direct your action. Okay, good. All right. And our last card is from The Way of the Horse deck by Linda Kohanov. And the crystal that came forward is my piece of jade. And this is from my earth team. So this is very much about, you know, the here and now of life, the things we need to do to have an existence here on earth. It has to do with money. It has to do with the material possessions that we have, with our work. It's, you know, it's not in the mental sphere, it's not in the emotional sphere, and it's not in that fiery passion sphere. It's in this very grounded, earthy, think Taurus, think Capricorn, like going for it. Virgo, very perfecting, making lists. That's earth energy. So this beautiful piece of jade has these speckles of gold through it. And this is known to me when I sat with this, when I first got it. I call it elder. And when I looked at all of the meanings, all of the notes I have about it, this is the part that came through as the message for this week. Learning through elders. In a heartbeat, you turn a corner, and there lies the abundance you have been seeking. Abundance in whatever way your mind and your awareness may be directed at. That could be in terms of financial matters, or that could be health, or relationships, love, friendship, work. However, abundance can mean all of that. But there's a sense of learning from elders, and don't forget to include yourself in that, because again, I'm being kicked back to our symbol, a Chinese laundry. The times that have built your heritage. This includes how you were raised, how you saw your parents get through tough times, your grandparents, other family, and very close friends. And then in terms of your personal heritage, how have you gotten through those times when you got the soiled, knees on your pants, or you scun your knees up? That is what the Chinese laundry points to. There's something within you that's able to nurse those wounds, to scrub away those stains, and to make it new again through the toils and troubles, and through the scrubbing of the pants, or the scrubbing of the wound, or going to the hospital. You get up and you get it done. And that is, for you, it's tied into that elder knowledge. So there can be some value for you this week in looking at your parents, your grandparents, who you saw as a child, and you may not even have been aware of it, but you saw them continue to go along through life, even if you perceived that they were having some troubles. They still made it happen. Life moves on. It just keeps going. That's the Sagittarius vibe that we have this week. It just never stops moving. It's always looking for deeper meaning, for greater philosophy, for a higher mind, for travel and adventure, and it's just never enough. You just got to keep going. But there's value in knowing those roots that came from, that rich experience, okay? And including knowing that the fortune can change if you just walk around the corner. If 1 minute, you have $10 in your checking account, and the next thing your uncle decides to give you a big birthday check because he just had a really good fortune come in, or you just don't know. And that's always possible. Okay? So there's that dual message for you. I'm really focusing a lot on the crystal for you. I'm going to get to the card in a second. It's both that looking at those tough spots that people that you consider your elders when you were growing up, particularly. What did they go through and how did they do that? And then how have you done that throughout your life? And then also, going through and knowing that things change rapidly and in any way. But I was really taken there as I was rubbing this with the smoothness. And that even when the cadence of life changes, so somebody gets a diagnosis, or somebody comes into money, or somebody changes job, or they change where they're living, or, the change can actually be a lot smoother than we think. But our natural reaction is to be like, oh, is to raise up all of the fear because we don't know. We don't have an expectation. We're not sure. But I'm really taken with this. This is a crystal that I have that is one of the more smooth ones. And it really caught me there. That we don't allow ourselves to make transitions smooth simply through our choice. And so that's where the elder energy can come in to help inform. Probably to you as a child, it looked pretty smooth. It might not have been for the person involved, but believe me, that is always an option as transitions happen. It's always an option to choose that this is going a lot more smoothly than I could have anticipated. But you have to make that choice. You have to put your focus on it in that direction. Okay? And there's some rich tradition kind of stuff from your past that is coming in, I feel, to help inform this. Okay, so let's get to your card. And I'm going to read you the whole thing. I love these entries in the Way of the Horse deck. This is Vigilance. This is quite an interesting looking card. And doesn't give you the most settled feeling, does it? It's just what I was talking about and why I was so caught with the smooth. This horse looks pretty uptight. And so here's how this reads. Nature's warning system, anxiety associated with change, fear or vulnerability. The white horse at the edge of the herd catches wind of possible danger. Is it time to flee, fight, or relax and go back to grazing? The gift is fear is nature's warning system, protective intuition that, if used intelligently, can help you safely navigate unknown territory on your way to greener pastures. Now this next part is what my dowsing indicated really wanted to come through for you that chose this card. And this is the challenge message. Because most people are conditioned to see fear as weakness, learning which fears to heed and which fears to overcome can be confusing. The key lies in determining whether you're dealing with a legitimate external threat or an internal threat, a challenge to your self-image or belief system. So there's a sense here with this, that when the challenges come up, and in this, you can gather the data from your elders from your past. You can gather it from your own life of challenges you've had so far. those times when your beliefs are challenged, it's just because you're ready for that, is what I'm getting. That's the wise elder energy. It's because you're ready to discover this new pocket of gold that's available to you. These situations would not be coming up unless you were ready for them. And what it does is it expands your thinking, it expands your belief beyond where it currently is. Again, think about Sagittarius energy. That's what we've got this week. Sag is never happy with just, this is what I know and this is how I operate and that's it. No, always expanding philosophy, viewpoint, learning through travel, adventure, getting out of the box, trying things, failing at things, succeeding at things. Sag doesn't care. It's just all out there. I'm just going to say what I think and I don't even care if it blows up. You know, it might just inspire somebody to get off their behind and get going on something. That's the way that Sag energy feels. It's fiery. And, you know, this, for you, you know, there might just be, well, there is energy there for you this week where it's that sense of fear with the unknown, and that it can go smoothly. It does not have to be bumpy. You don't have to let, and the key word here for you is fear. That nasty F word. Fear. It can hold you back. It can literally put straps down on you, and you just, there's no way you're getting anywhere near to that Sagittarius energy. So that's what this elder energy is saying to me is, but it doesn't have to be bad, because this is expanding her or him to this new level of understanding, this new way of being, which then invites in all kinds of new opportunities. So if there's anxiety there, or that blessed fear, that'll be your calling card this week for you to say to yourself, okay, I remember Kat talking about this, and I'm ready for this, and what's behind my fear, and is it really that bad? Or could it go smoothly? Could the transition be a lot smoother than I'm thinking? Could there be other choices in how I go about, remember, earth energy here, in the steps that I take to start this new adventure, to begin this new project? Could there be other ways that I could go about that? I'm encouraging you to really open up wide and really take a look at the options that are in your peripheral vision. They are not going to be ones that you're typically going to choose, because you're being called to a new level. And the value in looking back at your elders, as I said, and at your own life experience, is those are well-known paths, well-known timelines, as I call them. You know, they're like check boxes on a list. They're really reliable responses. The value of looking at them is knowing that at the time that felt like the best response for where you were at that time, or where your family member or loved one was at that time in their life. And the point is, they moved through it, and they grew, and they became more as a result of it. You always become more as a result of what grinds, or what is looked at as fear or anxiety producing. And then this next level for you is the idea of smooth. That's why it literally caught me off guard as I was doing your reading before. Like, I had to really stop and like, oh, you know, the sun comes out here. It's like there is a new day dawning. where smooth, relaxed, easy, those can all be your experience. But you have to not let the anxiety and fear strap you up and take you away, dragging you behind the car. You have to be the one in charge, and this is where the vigilance comes in. Like, you have to be vigilant about your own awareness in those situations that cause the anxiety and fear, particularly at times of change. That's where it's at for you this week. Don't worry, be happy, smooth, relaxed, easy. Been there, done that, and now I'm doing something new and different, and I'm going to find a whole nother way to go at it. This is like a treasure trove to you, and you're growing big time as a result of going through whatever change it might be. And this also, I want to say, can be very happy change. Maybe people with a new baby, or maybe it's a friend who has a baby and your whole relationship is going to change. There's many options around all of that and how you respond, and particularly earth-wise, how you go about your action, how you go about planning how you're going to proceed, what you're going to actually do. This earth energy is about getting organized and, having a plan of how I'm going to proceed. Okay? Wow. Really interesting readings this week. So I hope everybody has fun with the Chinese laundry. It's beautiful Sag energy, lots of passion, and lots of adventure and new philosophy, particularly, it feels, popping out this week. All right? Take care, and I'll talk to you next week.